Hey students, welcome to the last and very important lecture of our chapter number 2, solutions. So till now we have studied 4 colligative properties: the relative lowering of vapor pressure, elevation of boiling point, depression of freezing point and osmotic pressure, right? This lecture is very important, students, because whatever the formulas we have learned till now can only be applied for non-electrolytes, right? So as you all know, what a non-electrolyte is. A non-electrolyte is a substance that will not dissociate into ions in their aqueous solution. Example, urea, sugar, right? Such substances, when you dissolve it in water, they will get dissolved in water, but they will not get dissociated into ions, right? So what are the formulas we have learned till now can only be applied to such substances, non-electrolytes. But what happens if there is an electrolyte? So electrolyte is a substance which dissociates into ions in their aqueous solution, right? Now depending upon how much dissociation is occurring, there may be two types of electrolytes: strong electrolyte and a weak electrolyte. A strong electrolyte is the one which is completely dissociated in the aqueous solution, okay? Or you can say that a strong electrolyte is 100% dissociated, whereas a weak electrolyte is one which is partially dissociated in the aqueous solution. Or you can say which is not 100% but depends, right? It may be 90% or 80% or whatever, but not 100% dissociated in the aqueous solution, right? Now let's see why we cannot apply these formulas to electrolytes, okay? Now students, what happens? Suppose you take an electrolyte. Suppose you take an electrolyte and you dissolve it in solvent to make solution, right? So what will happen? This electrolyte will get dissociated into ions, right? Students, consider this example that you have NaCl solid, your common salt. When you add it to water, what will happen? It will get dissociated into ions, right? Because of this dissociation, students, what will happen? The number of particles in solution increases, right? The number of particles in the solution increases, right? Because of the increase in the number of particles, the colligative properties will also increase, right? Because colligative properties, students, they depend upon the number of particles of the solution, right? So basically, if your number of particles in the solution is increasing because of dissociation, the colligative properties will also increase. Now because of this increase in the colligative properties, the molecular mass, right, that of the solute that we calculate from colligative properties will decrease. Why? Because, see students, in the you see the any formula of colligative property, you will find that colligative property will be inversely proportional to molecular mass, right? You take any formula of colligative property, you will find that the colligative property will be inversely proportional to molecular mass. It means that due to dissociation, if colligative properties is increased, then the molecular mass that we calculate from that particular colligative property will be less than the actual molecular mass, correct? And such defective or such a molecular mass which is not correct is known as abnormal molecular mass. Correct? Okay. So this entire phenomena in which a electrolyte dissociates into ions, and because of which the molecular mass that we find out with the help of colligative property is wrong, right? So students, this phenomena is known as dissociation. See, in the case of dissociation, we cannot apply the formulas we have learnt, right, to find out molecular mass of solute, because the molecular mass will be abnormal molecular mass. It will not be the actual molecular mass, but it will be the wrong molecular mass that you get. For example, see students, when I add NaCl to solution, I am considering that I am adding only 1 mole of NaCl, correct? But as it enters the water and it makes a solution, you see, we actually get 2 moles of the particles. So what we consider we are adding 1 mole of sodium chloride, but actually we are getting how many? We are getting 2 moles of ions from it, correct? So as a result, what will happen, my dear students, the molecular mass of sodium chloride that you get here will be half of the actual molecular mass. Okay, the molecular mass of sodium chloride that we get here, my dear students, you know that the molecular mass of sodium chloride is 58.5 gram per mole. So the molecular mass that you get will be this, which is not at all acceptable, right? So in case of dissociation, you cannot apply the formulas we have learned so far. Okay, now let's see what happens in the case of association. Now students, consider that I add acetic acid or benzoic acid to benzene. What I am doing is I am adding acetic acid or benzoic acid to benzene. Now students, here your acetic acid or benzoic acid will show association. What is association? See, this is the general way to represent a carboxylic acid. This is another carboxylic acid molecule, correct? Now you see that here hydrogen bond will develop between the 2 carboxylic acid molecules. Because of development of such hydrogen bonds, what will happen? These 2 molecules will get associated, and this phenomena, my dear students, is known as association, correct? One thing I would like to mention here is that your water will generally not show the phenomena of association. I mean to say that if you add any solute to water, then generally the solute will not get associated. This is because of very high dielectric constant of water. Okay. Now, because of association, students, what will happen? The number of particles will decrease, right? Because I am adding 2 moles of acetic acid to benzene, but it enters inside and it turns into 1 mole because of association, right? So number of particles will decrease. Due to decrease in the number of particles, the colligative properties will also decrease, right? Because it will depend upon the number of particles of solute. Because of decrease in the colligative properties, students, molecular mass that we get, the molecular mass of solute that we get here will increase. Why it will increase? Because colligative properties are inversely proportional to molecular mass. So if colligative properties half, the molecular mass doubles. Clear? Students, as we know, the molecular mass of acetic acid is 60. This is the correct molecular mass. But because of association, the molecular mass that you get here will be 60 into 2, which is at all not acceptable, right? Now, what happens here is, actually this is 1 molecule of carboxylic acid, right? But because of association, what happens is this entire associated thing is taken as 1 molecule, right? Because 2 molecules are associated, this entire will be taken as 1 molecule, and hence the molecular mass will be doubled. This type of the molecular mass, students, is also known as abnormal molecular mass, correct? So what is abnormal molecular mass? I will define abnormal molecular mass, right? And you can write it down if you want. The molecular mass obtained from the experimentally determined colligative properties, the molecular mass that is obtained from the experimentally determined colligative properties which is not the actual molecular mass of the solute, right? Which is not the actual molecular mass of the solute. Such a molecular mass is known as abnormal molecular mass. Both dissociation and association phenomena will give you the molecular mass which is abnormal molecular mass. Means it is quite different from the normal molecular mass or correct molecular mass. Okay. So in these two cases you cannot apply the formulas of colligative property we have learned so far. So now students, what is the solution of this problem? The solution to the problem was given by a scientist called Van't Hoff. Van't Hoff proposed Van't Hoff factor denoted as I. He defined Van't Hoff factor I as the ratio of normal, or you can say calculated, molecular mass and abnormal or observed molecular mass. Now students, the normal molecular mass is the actual molecular mass of the solute, and abnormal molecular mass is the incorrect molecular mass that you get from the determination of colligative properties experimentally. Correct? Now since colligative property is inversely proportional to your molecular mass, I can say that I is equal to, see students, because they are inversely proportional, I can say that I is equal to observed colligative property upon calculated colligative property, right? Now the observed colligative property is due to what? The observed colligative property is due to the total number of moles of solute particles after dissociation or association, and the calculated colligative property is because of the total number of moles of solute before association or dissociation, right? So I can write that observed colligative property is because of the total number of solute particles after association or dissociation. And the calculated colligative property, the colligative property which we actually calculate, right, in that we don't consider whether association or dissociation occurs. So that is because of total number of solute particles before association or dissociation. Correct? So students, as we have seen, this is the formula for Van't Hoff factor. Now let us have a look at the applications of Van't Hoff factor. The first application of Van't Hoff factor is to know whether the solute undergoes association or dissociation, right? So by making the use of Van't Hoff factor, we can know whether our solute is undergoing association or dissociation. Let's see how. Suppose if the value of Van't Hoff factor is 1, it means if this is 1, then your numerator and denominator will be equal. It means that the number of moles of solute particles after association or dissociation is equal to the number of solute particles before dissociation or association. It means that the number of particles in the solution is remaining the same. So for example, if I take 1 mole urea and I add it to a solvent to make a solution, then the number of 1 mole urea particles in the solution will remain the same. What is the reason? Because urea will neither undergo association nor it will undergo dissociation in the solution, right? So this means that no association or dissociation occurs. Students, if the value of I is more than 1, right, it means that the numerator is more than the denominator. It means that the number of solute particles after going into the solution is increasing, right? It means what will happen? Dissociation occurs, because if the number of solute particles are increasing, it implies that dissociation occurs, right? And the third is, if the value of I is less than 1, it means that your numerator will be less than the denominator, which means that the number of solute particles after going inside the solution, once they form the solution, the number of solute particles are decreasing. It is because of the association of the solute particles, right? So if I is less than 1, it means that association occurs. Okay, this first application should be very clear to you. Now let us have a look at second application. See students, as I told you that whatever the formula of colligative properties you have studied till now can only be applied to the solution of non-electrolytes. Okay, but now if we make some modifications in those formulas, then we can also apply it to the solutions of electrolytes. How? So for example, the second application is, we can apply the formulas of colligative properties in case of dissociation or association, right? In those cases also we can apply those formulas. How? So we have to slightly modify the formula. Let's see how. See students, the first formula, relative lowering of vapor pressure, we studied, it was P10 minus P1 upon P10 is equal to X2. The second formula for elevation of boiling point that we studied was delta TB is equal to KB into M. The third formula, students, that we studied for depression of freezing point was delta TF is equal to KF into M, which is very similar to the elevation of boiling point. And the fourth formula that we studied for osmotic pressure was pi is equal to W2 RT upon M2 into V. So this formula can be undoubtedly used for non-electrolytes. But if I want to use them in the case of a dissociation or association, then what I need to do is I have to multiply Van't Hoff factor here, here, here and here. Okay, so when you just multiply these formulas by Van't Hoff factor, then they can also be used for electrolytes, means whether it is dissociation or it is association. In both the cases it can be used. Okay, now generally students, many of the students I have seen, they face some difficulties in this topic because they don't understand that where they should multiply Van't Hoff factor. Okay, look students, it's very easy. Van't Hoff factor should always be multiplied. Listen to me very carefully. Van't Hoff factor should always be multiplied on the side opposite to that of the colligative property. What I mean to say is, if your colligative property is on the LHS, then you have to multiply by Van't Hoff factor on the RHS. And if your colligative property is on the RHS, then you have to multiply by Van't Hoff factor in the LHS part. Okay, see here, this is colligative property, so I have multiplied by Van't Hoff factor here. In the second equation, delta TB is your colligative property. KB is not a colligative property. KB, your ebullioscopic constant, is a constant. It is not a colligative property. So here there is elevation of boiling point. So on the opposite side I have multiplied by Van't Hoff factor. In the third case, this is the colligative property. So on the opposite side, I have multiplied by Van 't Hoff factor. And in the fourth, here this is the formula for osmotic pressure. So here I have multiplied by Van 't Hoff factor. Correct? So these are the two applications. The first one stating that you can decide whether your solute particles are undergoing association or dissociation inside the solution. And the second is we can apply the formulas to the cases of association as well as dissociation by using Van 't Hoff factor. Right? Students, it is very clear from these two applications that for non-electrolytes, no association or dissociation occurs and the value of I will be 1. So the formulas, whatever we have learned till now for non-electrolytes, we were not applying Van 't Hoff factor because the value of I for non-electrolytes was 1. Okay, so it doesn't matter, you multiply by 1 or you don't multiply by 1. Okay, now students, the third application of Van 't Hoff factor is we can know the degree of dissociation, that is alpha. Okay, we denote the degree of dissociation by alpha. So we can know the degree of dissociation by making the use of Van 't Hoff factor. But before that, let us understand what do you mean by the term degree of dissociation. Degree of dissociation alpha can be defined as number of moles dissociated upon total number of moles taken. Correct? The value of your alpha or degree of dissociation will always lie between 0 to 1. Correct? What does it mean? That for non-electrolytes, your value of dissociation will be 0. And for a strong electrolyte, I mean the electrolytes which are completely dissociated, for them the value of alpha will be 1. So as your value of alpha approaches closer to 1, the strength of an electrolyte to undergo dissociation goes on increasing. Correct? So this is one very important point that you should remember. The degree of dissociation will have a maximum value of 1. And in that case, we call it 100% dissociation. Okay? Let us derive how we can find out the degree of dissociation from Van 't Hoff factor I. So suppose if I have an electrolyte A, okay, and I dissolve it in water and it gives me ions A1, A2 up to AN, right? It gives me n number of ions A1, A2 up to AN. So initially, you see, suppose I have started with 1 mole of A, so initially there won't be any dissociation, so I won't get any ions here. But slowly as the process of dissociation starts and it continues, I start getting ions. A time will come when no more of A will dissociate and we will say that at that time equilibrium has been established, right? So at equilibrium, suppose alpha moles of A are dissociated. So if alpha moles of A are dissociated, then what is the remaining number of moles of A? I started with 1 mole of A. Alpha moles are dissociated, so remaining moles of A in the solution will be 1 minus alpha mole. Okay, and here I will get alpha mole of A1, alpha mole of A2 up to so on, and alpha moles of AN. So total, you see students, I get alpha plus alpha n times, I get n alpha moles of the ions from electrolyte A. Correct? So now, as per the definition of Van 't Hoff factor, I can say I is equal to total number of solute particles after dissociation. So my dear students, what is the total number of solute particles after dissociation? You see, n alpha plus 1 minus alpha. Correct? Because n alpha moles of ions will be obtained, but 1 minus alpha moles of electrolyte A is there in the solution undissociated. So you cannot neglect this, okay, because this is our solute only, right? So this will be the total number of moles of the particles present in the solution after dissociation divided by total number of solute particles before dissociation. So before dissociation there was only 1 mole of the solute particle that we took, correct? So I is equal to, just open the brackets, you get n alpha plus 1 minus alpha, okay? You can take 1 here in subtraction, so you get n alpha minus alpha. Now you can take alpha common, you get n minus 1 here, correct? Take n minus 1 in division, so you get I minus 1 upon n minus 1 is equal to alpha, correct? So students, see, I got the formula for alpha, that is degree of dissociation, by making the use of Van't Hoff factor, okay? So you can calculate like this, the degree of dissociation making the use of Van't Hoff factor, okay? Now students, this topic can be taught to you in such a way by taking two different cases, whether there is a strong electrolyte or there is a weak electrolyte, okay? But I don't prefer to teach that way, because what happens is this formula can be is applied to both the strong electrolyte as well as to the weak electrolyte, correct? So let me give you a question, okay, just to check whether you have understood the concept or not. Find the formula to calculate Van't Hoff factor I for dissociation of strong electrolyte, or I can also call it as 100% dissociation, right? So students, this formula is the general formula for degree of dissociation, which can be used for strong as well as weak, both the electrolytes, right? But my question is, what will be the formula to calculate I, your Van't Hoff factor, when your dissociation is 100%, I mean strong electrolyte, okay? So just calculate it. If you calculate it, students, you will find that for 100% dissociation, alpha will be equal to 1, correct? For 100% dissociation, alpha will be 1. So if your alpha is 1, I can write 1 is equal to I minus 1 upon n minus 1. Take it on this side, you get n minus 1 is equal to I minus 1. 1 gets cancelled. So students, you get I is equal to n, right? So what is your Van't Hoff factor? It is equal to n. And what is your n? N is the number of particles after dissociation. Your n is the number of particles after dissociation, correct? So students, suppose if you are given an electrolyte, right? Say for example, you are given NaCl. We know that it is a strong electrolyte, and suppose they have asked you the Van't Hoff factor of NaCl. So what you will do is, we know that NaCl will dissociate, giving you Na plus aqueous and Cl minus aqueous ions. So students, how many number of particles we get here? 2. So your value of I will be 2. Similarly, suppose if you are given MgCl2 and again a solution is made out of it, so you know that in solution MgCl2 will dissociate, giving you Mg plus 2 and 2Cl minus ions. So here again we get 1 plus 2, 3 particles or 3 ions. So your value of I will be 3, right? It is very easy. Let us take one more example, students. Suppose we have K4FeCN6. Now this is a complex compound, right? You should understand here that whatever I have given in the square bracket will never undergo dissociation. Okay, so what will happen? It will dissociate, giving you 4K plus plus FeCN6 minus 4, right? So you can see that here I get 4 plus 1, 5 ions. So value of Van't Hoff factor is 5 if it undergoes 100% dissociation. Okay. Now the question is, sir, suppose if a compound is not going 100% dissociation, and suppose if it is undergoing, say for example 30% dissociation, then how can I find out Van't Hoff factor? See students, in that case again you can apply the formula here. 30% dissociation means 0.3. The value of alpha will be 0.3. You put that value here and you can calculate the Van't Hoff factor, right? See, the things are very easy and very simple. Okay. Now students, come to the fourth application of Van't Hoff factor, and that is Van't Hoff factor is used to find the degree of association, and we denote the degree of association by X. Okay. Now what is degree of association? Degree of association X is defined as the number of moles associated upon total number of moles. Correct? Now see, say for example, the same example we'll take. Suppose I have added acetic acid in benzene. Okay, and I started with 1 mole of acetic acid. So suppose inside benzene, say for example 0.3 moles they are associated, and 0.7 moles will remain as they are in the solution. So students, according to the formula of degree of association, we can see that just 0.3 will be your degree of association. Correct? Just like the degree of dissociation, your degree of association will always be between 0 to 1. It means it can have the value 0, which indicates no association. It can have the value 1, which indicates 100% association, or it can have any value between 0 to 1. Correct? So let us now derive the formula to find out degree of association by making the use of Van't Hoff factor. Students, pay attention, this is very interesting. Suppose I start with n moles of substance A, okay, and when I dissolve it in a particular solvent, it undergoes association giving me An, right? This means that here I have n moles of A, and here I get 1 mole of An. So all the A molecules are associated to give you just 1 mole of An. Okay, so initially I have n moles of A which associate giving me 1 mole of An. But as I told you students, to calculate degree of association or dissociation, we cannot start like this with n moles. Okay, so we have, it is always your degree of association or dissociation is always out of 1. So I have to consider that suppose I have 1 mole of A, then students tell me how many moles of An will you have? Just cross multiply. Just cross multiply. What you get? 1 upon n. So here I will have 1 upon n moles of An. So whether I say I start with n moles of A and get 1 mole of An, or I say that I start with 1 mole of A and I get 1 by n moles of An, students, both of them have the same meaning. Correct? Now, at equilibrium, we see that, for example, from this 1 mole, say for example, x moles of A are associated. Okay, so if x moles of A are associated, how many moles of A will be remaining? 1 minus x moles of A will be remaining. Correct? And how many moles of An that you will get? Just see, if I have 1 mole of A, I get 1 by n moles of An. Now x moles of A are associated, and this association leads to formation of An. So x moles of A are associated. So how many moles of AN do you get? Again, when you cross multiply, you will find that you get x upon n moles of AN. Correct? Now, according to the formula of Van 't Hoff factor, I can write I is equal to total number of solute particles after association. So after association, students, how many solute particles I have? 1 minus x plus x upon n. Because this is the solute particle which is remaining in the solution unassociated. So I have to consider this. Okay. And divided by total number of particles before association. So you know, before association, students, the total number of particles was 1. I write 1 here. Just solve this equation. So 1 minus x plus x raised to n. Take n as the LCM. You get n minus nx plus x upon n. Correct? Now, students, take this n here into multiplication. You get ni is equal to n. Take x common from here, minus x, into what you get is n minus 1. Correct? Now, students, this n you can take it in division here. Sorry, this n you can take it in subtraction here. So you get ni minus n is equal to minus x into n minus 1. Take n common. You get I minus 1 is equal to minus x n minus 1. Okay. Or I can write x is equal to, take this thing in division, minus n into I minus 1 upon n minus 1. Students, to remove this minus sign, what I can do is x is equal to n into 1 minus I upon n minus 1. Correct? So this will give me the formula for degree of association. Okay, and this formula I have derived making the use of Van 't Hoff factor. Correct? So speak with me. The formula for degree of association x is n into 1 minus I upon n minus 1. Correct? Now on basis of this formula, again I have a question. The question is, what will be formula for Van 't Hoff factor I in case of 100% association? Correct? What will be the value or what will be the formula of Van 't Hoff factor I in case of 100% association? Now this I want you to do it yourself. Okay, and comment the answer in the comment box. Okay, so that's all about Van 't Hoff factor. Let us sum up the whole thing of Van 't Hoff factor, the application of Van 't Hoff factor. The first is, students, Van 't Hoff factor can be used to decide whether your solute undergoes association or dissociation in the solution. Okay, the second is, you just have to multiply by Van 't Hoff factor, and those formulas of colligative properties that we have studied earlier can be modified, and hence they can be used to calculate the molecular masses even in the case of association or dissociation. Okay, the third is, you can find out the degree of dissociation alpha by using Van 't Hoff factor, and the formula is alpha equal to I minus 1 upon n minus 1, where n is equal to number of particles obtained after dissociation. Okay, and then we can calculate the degree of association x. The formula to find out degree of association is x equal to n into 1 minus I upon n minus 1, where this n is equal to number of moles of particles associated. Okay, कितने moles associate हुए हैं, that is your n. Okay, so with this we finish the theory part of our chapter. Do comment in the comment section the answer of this question. Okay, besides this, what if you have any other doubt, any other query, you can comment in the comment section. Okay, so hope you have liked the video, and if you have liked the video, like, share and do comment in the comment section. Okay, all the best.